So in developing this, which will be our last annual conference, we wanted to take the opportunity to look back over the history of where we started, and also to look forward to the future, in particular with regard to new technologies that are being developed in genetics and genomics, and what their ELSI implications are. So, so this is what I just told you. We're going to be looking back with an opening talk by Dr. Applebaum. And then we'll have two sessions in which we're looking forward. The first one today will be focused on genetic interventions for neurodevelopmental disorders. And the second one tomorrow will have two parts, one devoted to a discussion of genomics and prediction science in psychiatry. And this is particularly with regard to polygenic risk scores. And then at the end, we will have a session led by emerging scholars in the field on their perspectives on the future of ELSI. So we will have plenty of time for discussion. We've allocated 45 minutes for each talk, which will include 15 minutes allocated to discussion, I should say up to 15 minutes. And then we'll also have a panel discussion after each of these two sessions devoted to genetic interventions or genomic and prediction science. And for each of those two sessions, we've designed the sessions so that there will be an opening science talk talking about where we are with the science developments relevant for those topics. And then they will be followed by two ELSI talks, one of which will be a presentation, a conceptual presentation on the ethical issues, and the other which will be focused on empirical research in those areas. So also just a little bit of housekeeping for the discussion. When during the talks, you'll be muted. And then there are two ways that you can make a comment during the discussions, comment or question. One is that you can use the raise hand function in Zoom, which if you look at the lower part of your screen, you'll see a button for reactions. And in there, there's a raise hand button. Or you can place a comment or a question in the chat, and we'll be taking a look at the chat the whole time. And we will ask you to unmute yourselves and ask the question, or if you would prefer, we can just read your question out loud. So that's for discussion. And then I just have one more slide, which is, far too small for you to read, but I just wanted to point out that in your program, which I sent to everyone who pre-registered, there is a longer description of each of our speakers and where they're coming from in terms of their positions and their training and their research interests. So I'll be giving just a very brief introduction for each speaker because you'll have the opportunity to read about them in more depth. Okay, so with that, I will stop sharing and hand it over to Dr. Applebaum, who is our center director and a professor of psychiatry here at Columbia.